Assassin's Creed 3 is, without a doubt, the biggest game of 2012. Not only has it been in development longer than any other game in the series, but also boasts twice the production capacity of any game in the franchise. Now, for those of you who've been keeping up to date with every little detail released by Ubisoft, then I suggest you go check out my other video, 50 Things in Assassin's Creed 3. But for those of you who want the broad strokes as to why this game is getting as much attention as it is, then without further ado, here are the top 15 reasons why Assassin's Creed 3 is awesome.
Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.
Coming in at reason number 15 is the conclusion to the Desmond storyline. Now, if you played Revelations, then you know the Desmond story consisted of large chunks of exposition about his past as he lay comatose within the Animus 2.0. But for fans of Desmond, the game really didn't offer as much screen time as we would have liked. Now, while the developers at Ubisoft have been very close-lipped about the Desmond storyline, they have confirmed that his role and involvement will be bigger than in any previous Assassin's Creed game. Now, without going into spoiler territory, the modern portions of gameplay will take place at the brink of an apocalyptic event. And while Assassin's Creed 3 will likely conclude the Desmond storyline, it'll be far from the last entry in the franchise. Coming in at reason number 14 is Boston and New York. One of the big selling points of any Assassin's Creed game is its tendency to focus on one geographic location. In Brotherhood, it was Rome. In Revelations, it was Constantinople. But if you know anything about colonial America, especially cities like Boston and New York, then you know that buildings were few and far between in those days. And they didn't have the flat stone roofs of many European cities, but rather sloped wooden ones. I guess what I'm trying to say is, these are going to be some very different environments than the ones experienced in previous Assassin's Creed games. Whereas you typically had populated urban centers with narrow walkways crowded with people, the cities of New York and Boston are surprisingly sparse. But that's not to say they aren't lively. In fact, the demos show Boston as a bustling port city where men work, news criers cry, and thieves try and grab whatever they can get their hands on. Now granted, these cities will be 1/3 the size of their real-life counterparts at the time, but it's still impressive to see the exhaustive lengths that Ubisoft has gone to recreate them. Now coming in at reason number 13 are the collector's editions being released across various consoles and PC. Now, I'm aware of 7 different collector's editions being released by Ubisoft, the most I've ever seen be released for a single game. The most impressive of which is the Freedom Edition, which is a GameStop exclusive. This features a retail copy of the game, a steel bookcase with the cover art drawn by award-winning comic book artist Alex Ross, George Washington's notebook, a 24-inch high-quality figurine of Connor, and 2 exclusive lithographs. This also includes 2 exclusive single-player missions, Ghost of War and Lost Mine Ruins, as well as an additional multiplayer character known as the Sharpshooter. Other items within various collector's editions include Connor's medallion bearing the Assassin's Creed logo, a new graphic novel entitled Assassin's Creed Subject 4, a sturdy belt buckle also bearing the Assassin's Creed logo, an embroidered Assassin's Creed-inspired colonial flag, and the 2nd edition of the Assassin's Creed Encyclopedia. Now, each collector's edition is different depending on where you buy it, so I suggest you do your research beforehand before you pre-order the game. Coming in at reason number 12 is the multiplayer. In the last Assassin's Creed game, multiplayer was a huge portion of gameplay, despite most games in the franchise being largely single-player experiences. However, for those that want something different, as well as social interaction online, then you'll be happy to hear that the new Assassin's Creed 3 will include 12 different multiplayer modes. Now, while the developers have been very tight-lipped about what will be included, one mode entitled Dominion will require players to hold certain points on a map, while at the same time employing the same tactics of strategy and stealth as they do in the single-player campaign. Ubisoft also revealed a new cooperative multiplayer mode entitled Wolfpack that will allow players to form groups of up to 4 people that will have to work together in order to eliminate NPC assassination targets known as moles. It should be noted that players will have the option of playing as redcoats and as female assassins, but if previous games are any indication, I think we can expect a lot for multiplayer this time around. Coming in at reason number 11 is a new control scheme. The concept behind controls in previous Assassin's Creed games was that the player was essentially a puppeteer, using the Xbox's Y button or the PS3's triangle button to control head-oriented actions, using the A button and X button, respectively, to control foot-oriented actions, and using the other two to create arm actions. Well, not anymore. In the new game, the top button is used to access tools such as smoke bombs and other items, while the X button and the square button on your PS3 or the X button and A button on your Xbox 360 will be used exclusively for combat. Now, the idea behind this was to give players easier access to items because in previous Assassin's Creed games you often had to pause what was happening on screen in order to access them. Nevertheless, I think this is a welcome change to the franchise, and I can't wait to test out these new controls. Now, coming in at reason number 10 are the weapons, and really what better way to showcase your new control scheme than with a new set of weapons to use at your disposal. Now, since Connor is half Native American, then it only makes sense to have weapons that reflect his Native American heritage. So in addition to including the usual staples of previous Assassin's Creed games like the hidden blade and the knife, the developers have included a tomahawk as well as a bow and arrow. But I think the biggest surprise from the videos we've seen is the rope dart, a weapon that allows you to hang enemy soldiers by jumping off a high tree branch. It's new, it's exciting, and I can't wait to try each one out once the game is released to market. And with that being said, coming in at reason number 9 is dual wielding. Now this reason is largely an extension of the new weapons being offered in the game, but I still think it's worth mentioning. Players in Assassin's Creed 3 will have the option of arming 2 weapons in their hands at once. Now, whether that means a tomahawk in one hand and a knife in the other, or a smoke bomb in one hand and a hidden blade in the other, the weapons you choose are entirely up to the player. It should also be noted that while scalping has been removed from the game, Connor can still use enemies as human shields and counter-kill 2 enemies at once, similar to Revelations. And while chain kills will certainly make an appearance, they will be harder to maintain in this title. Coming in at reason number 8 is naval warfare, and I think one of the biggest surprises to come out of the videos was the inclusion of naval warfare. In fact, the developers have gone on record with saying that at least one assassination mission will require you to command a large galleon and take down enemies using cannons. Because as the developers have stated previously, the American Revolution wasn't just fought on land. Players will get to sail through several hours worth of gameplay and side missions. And what's even more amazing is that these portions of gameplay aren't on rails, but in fact entirely controlled by the player. Add to this enhanced water effects and dynamic weather, courtesy of the game's Anvil Next engine, and you've got yourself a recipe for some of the most realistic naval battles in video game history. Coming in at reason number 7 is the quest log. In previous Assassin's Creed games, you were never really given the chance to do more than one quest mission at a time. Oh sure, on the rare occasion you were able to do a side mission alongside a quest mission, but in terms of Ezio and Altair, they tended to be very single-minded in this regard. While the new assassin Connor will be able to multitask, available for simultaneous quest missions at any given time. Now personally, I'd also like to see a refined menu system, especially when it comes to selecting memories to replay missions. Instead of physically selecting each mission to see its details, how about one giant list of missions so we don't have to select each one manually? In any case, the ability to play more than one mission at a time is a welcome change in the franchise and will surely make the game feel more open world than it has in previous installments. Now coming in at reason number 6 is the new custom-built engine specifically for the game, better known as Anvil Next. Now this is actually the 3rd iteration of Ubisoft's proprietary game engine, which was made back in 2005, and is set to deliver improved visuals, character models, and AI. But there are a few more tweaks that make this game engine particularly interesting, including dynamic weather, simultaneous voice capture, motion capture, and facial animations, and the ability to render up to 2,000 NPCs on screen at once. Now take these features and include everything from previous Assassin's Creed games, and you've got the makings of an instant video game classic. Coming in at reason number 5 is the Frontier. Now for anyone who's played Red Dead Redemption, then you know that half the fun of that game is exploring the American heartland, gathering herbs, hunting animals, and not knowing what to expect on the old dusty trail. Now in Assassin's Creed 3, this is the frontier, a vast American wilderness between Boston and New York that's said to be 1.5 times the size of Rome in brotherhood, and a land that's even more massive and geographically diverse. But the developers at Ubisoft have gone the extra mile with this aspect of gameplay, which makes up about 30% of the game's story missions, as well as plenty of player-driven exploration. Like Red Dead Redemption, players will be able to hunt animals, trade meat and furs, as well as ride on horseback. But if you're planning to lay waste to 100 bears and 50 deer in one sitting, then you might be in for a disappointment, as developers have gone on record with saying that hunting will require a lot more time and strategy in order to succeed. Add to this a diverse landscape, and you've got the formula for some exciting gameplay ahead. Coming in at reason number 4 is Connor. Connor Kenway, or Connor Radun Hagedorn, according to his birth name, is of half Native American and half British descent, and it's not clear whether he's fighting for the British, the Americans, or neither side altogether. Now, because Connor is Desmond's ancestor, he is able to experience his memories through the Animus 2.0, similar in the way he did with Ezio and Altair in previous games. Now, we don't know much, but we do know that Connor becomes drawn into the American Revolution after his home is attacked, and we do know that he belongs to some kind of fighting brotherhood as the war between the Templars and the Assassins gets embroiled in the American Revolution. The game will follow 30 years of his life from 1753 to 1783, and what's even more astounding is that for a lot of the Mohawk characters, the dialogue and voice acting was recorded in their native language. In any case, Connor is a fantastic addition to the Assassin's Creed franchise, and I can't wait to play as him. Now, coming in at reason number 3 is trees. Now, you might laugh at me for putting trees on this list. After all, in most games they represent nothing more than scenic background, but in Assassin's Creed they represent something more, a natural progression of the game's engine and what you're truly capable of as an assassin. In demos, Connor is seen climbing trees, swinging around their trunks, and jumping from branch to branch like a nimble squirrel. I think one of the developers at Ubisoft said it best when he said that trees are the new buildings. Not only do they provide a fantastic vantage for picking off enemies, but also a great challenge as you navigate this new three-dimensional space. Because as we all know, trees don't always grow in the most orderly fashion. Coming in at reason number 2 is battlefields. The newest iteration of Ubisoft's game engine allows for up to 2,000 characters to be on screen at once, providing the backdrop for some of the best battles in the American Revolution. Probably the biggest showstopper is the Battle of Bunker Hill, which features 1,000 colonial and imperial soldiers and requires you as Connor to perform an assassination as the battle rages on around you. And I gotta be honest with you, I don't know how many of these set pieces will be included in the game, but the developers have promised a handful of serious twists to surprise the player as they progress through the game. And coming in at reason number 1 is the inclusion of guns. Now, guns in Assassin's Creed games are nothing new. In fact, they've been around since the second game in the franchise. But because Ezio had access to hidden firearms and your enemies didn't, the fights kind of felt one-sided and heavily relied on melee combat. In this game, that's no longer the case, as British and American soldiers have access to muskets at the ready. Now, of course, muskets aren't the fastest weapons out there. After all, they only fire once and take a hell of a long time to reload. But there is strength in numbers, and if you don't employ some kind of strategy against these redcoats, then you might find yourself in a precarious situation or even dead. Giving enemies guns changes the whole dynamic of the game. Couple with that some improved enemy AI, and you've got yourself a recipe for an entirely new gaming experience. One that I can't wait to play. And there you have it, the top 15 reasons why Assassin's Creed 3 is awesome. As always, I'm the Millennium Gamer, signing off.